3 rounds to go, and 3 drivers have risen to the top. Goodway, Hervias, and Ferguson look the best position to fight for the crown this season. With a single point between the trio, Okayama will help define the last leg of the championship. Who will get the advantage in the final 2 rounds? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the PRL GT3 series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is DJ Clark. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Okayama is a circuit familiar to most road racers on the iRacing service. To introduce our audience, let's head to our track guide.
Welcome to Road America. Nicknamed America's National Park of Speed, it's easy to see why just by looking at how the track is laid out. Long straights are a major feature, and drivers will build up incredible momentum before they find themselves interrupted by tight 90-degree corners. In fact, for a 4-mile circuit, it has shockingly few turns. It also has little in the way of variation in layouts. The main course is only broken up once with a single chicane added in the bend version. But don't take this to mean that it's a boring track. Elevation change happens many times over a lap, with a few places taking you into corners which are quite blind. But 2 of the turns on the back half of the course are perhaps the most distinctive. One is the carousel with its more than 180-degree radius. It just feels like it never stops. The other is the kink. Terrifyingly fast with very little runoff, it can end someone's race in a flash. Welcome to Okayama International Circuit. Located an hour's drive northeast of its titular city, it sits nestled among the green, lush hills in southern Japan. Built in 1990, it's most well known for the 2 visits Formula One made in 94 and 95. But since then, national and international touring car series have come to race here as well. Otherwise, the 2 available layouts are mostly used for club racing and amateur track days. The full course is just under 4 kilometers with 11 turns, and the short version is a measly 2 kilometers with 7 turns. It does this by cutting out the portion between Williams and Revolver. While hairpins abound throughout the lap, overtakes tend to be surprisingly hard. The first corner, Atwood Curve, and Hairpin are the main spots where drivers can attempt a traditional pass. Hairpin makes for unique battles though. The unusually steep banking for a road course, plus the switch back into Revolver, means that holding it around the outside can reward a brave driver. However, while it is a more modern facility, runoff in some places is shockingly small, and it can be easy to damage your car. This section in particular around Revolver, Piper, and Redmond gets slightly claustrophobic. The pit entry requires some practice since you must use the inside lane of Mike Knight, otherwise you'll get a penalty. While it might not see as much use in the real world, here on iRacing, this track is part of the base content, and so new road racers will find themselves here frequently. With it being suitable for a wide range of styles of cars, it's sure to excite many of the competitors who tackle it.
Well, DJ, it's going to be GT3 cars tackling this place today. What do you imagine this is going to be like?
Well, Joe, it's gonna be a bit of an interesting race, to say the least. Okayama is not exactly known for the best overtaking zones in the world. Now, there are 2 pretty good opportunities that they'll have, and that's going to be going down into the first corner and then into the hairpin corner off of that backstretch. But what makes things interesting is both of those areas have an opportunity for a bit of a fight back on it. So we're going to be able to see, I think, some relatively good side-by-side racing if drivers are bold enough to be able to throw them down in there. That first, that hairpin corner, though, that's really the best opportunity they're going to have. It's the only first gear corner on the track. Drivers are going to have to keep their eyes open, and patience is going to be a massive, massive virtue here. There are a lot of long flowing corners, and that means they have to be patient on the throttle. You don't want to spin those rear tires and run the risk of spinning off.
I know I'm a bit partial because this is the track I have my most official iRacing wins at, but hasn't seemed to scrounged up too many drivers here today. Before we get to those drivers, we want to remind you that today's race is brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation Motorsports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
The PRL GT3 series is also brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com. The championship, as we mentioned earlier, is incredibly tight. Goodway and Hervias are tied, and then Ferguson is a single point back behind them. You've got a bit of a jump back to Morales. He's not out of it, but it's going to have to take a lot of points over 3 different drivers for him to really have a shot at winning this thing. Same thing with Braden Werner, who's only about 2 more points back from Morales. And then you get back to Michael Davies, who again is not mathematically eliminated, but 51 points to make over 3 rounds is going to be a tough ask. Now, that's the pro drivers. What about the AM driver standings?
Well, it's a little bit more spread out, but not by much at the top, with Barry Cochran very close to the back of Neil Alexander, only 4 points off. Then the field starts to separate out a little bit more. Brian Hotham is 25 points off of Cochran in 3rd place. It's a bit unfeasible for him to get up there unless something crazy happens with Kwok Nin 37 points back, and Matthew Aubrey 45 points back off the lead in 5th.
As is with many of the PRL series, they have a teams championship. Parabola Cobalt is leading the way there, but it's only a 5-point gap between themselves and Pure Sims Free M, which is actually quite close, to be honest. SimMSA Esports Black is trailing a fair bit at this stage, with Parabola Azure back behind them, 49 behind our leader in the points with Pure Sims Esports, also within the top 5. And 3 rounds to go. What about race details? DJ, can you run us through that?
Well, as you said, Joe, this is the 8th of 10 rounds here, so 3 rounds to go in this championship. Now, we are racing the GT3 cars, so a whole plethora of models for our drivers to choose from out on track today. It's going to be a 40-minute race, and drivers are currently out on track for a 10-minute or 4-lap solo qualifying session, so nobody else on track messing up their hot laps. It is an open setup series, so drivers are able to tweak and tune the car to whatever fits their driving style or specific areas of the track. At a place like Okayama like this, there could be some interesting strategy variants that could play into it. But no matter what setup you choose, there is a 50% fuel limit, so drivers will have to come in through the pits at some point. In terms of incidents, you get a drive-through at 11 incidents and disqualified at 17. That's been a storyline this year. That's a pretty low count. Drivers will have to be careful. And that's, of course, if you sit on the naughty step. But if you're a good boy throughout the course of the race, you do get some bonus points, and that is for fastest lap, pole, or 3 incidents or less.
Right now in that qualifying session, Ferguson has the fastest lap, so he's going to take those bonus points for pole unless someone can sneak by. We've got Jorge Flores here, but there's only 1 minute left, and they do not get time to finish those hot laps with this qualifying style that they do with the limited number of laps. So once that hits 0, we are off towards the grid. So Flores, let's see, he's got just about 4 more corners to go here. The double hairpins of Hobbs and Redmond. Let's see if he's able to get around quick enough. It does look like he's going to have enough time. So this will be his 4th lap, and that should be our last car that should be able to complete one. I know Davies is out there, but he's on an out lap, so he's not going to be able to set a competitive time to get himself up the order. Out of the final turn, the 929 looks to improve on a 128.8. He's in 11th, and a 28.832 is a few hundredths quicker. That'll put him in 10th, so he moves up to the first sheet in qualifying. That ends that qualifying session, so we'll let those last few seconds tick down here. And this late afternoon race that we've got today for round 8 of the Precision Racing League's GT3 Sprint Series. And your starting order today, as I mentioned before, has Daniel Ferguson on the pole. It is going to be Lewis Goodway, his title rival that is to his outside. Diego Morales starts in the third. Hervias, the other title rival, will start from the second row in fourth. Braden Werner with P5 is followed by Gonzalo Cortez in sixth, Julio Palacio in P7, and then J.R. Williams off to his left side in eighth. You've got Jean-Marc Tremblay in ninth, with Jorge Flores rounding out the top 10.
In 11th is going to be Dave Menino, and next to him will be Andre Espinosa. Michael Davies will line up 13th, followed by Kwok Nin in 14th. Spencer Semkowicz is going to be in that 15th position, followed by David Morse, with Matt Hilton and Jordan Walker making up row 9 behind them. And then to round out your top 20, it's Neil Alexander and Brian Hotham.
Matthew Aubrey did not set a time, but he will start on the grid, so it looks like we'll have all 21 cars taking part today. Almost all of them are gridded up at this stage, so we'll be taking off pretty soon. And it is a short pace lap here, so not much time for them to prep the cars, get the tires and brakes up to the temperatures that they want. Considering the difficulty for drivers to try and make successful overtakes here, DJ, how important was that qualifying?
I think it's going to be pretty mega, Joe, and I think especially looking back at Hervias, he's going to be in a bit of a world of hurt here. He's got his two title rivals ahead of him, and they're going to be able to make those cars pretty big on the circuit, and so it's going to be all up to him to try to get that Lamborghini up to the front end of the field.
I think we're just waiting on Morales. Now he puts himself out there. Third place on the grid, so the Porsche pace car should start peeling away and lead them to the green flag. Watch out for that pit entry as well. It is a bit of a different one. Goodway takes a while for his car to get going for some reason, and I'm not sure why, but he will have a chance to catch up to the pace car, so it is certainly not anything dire, just unusual that he waited for such a long time to get the loud pedal down. But you'll see that pit entry here off to the right side through Mike Knight. There we'll see it here in a second. Once the camera shifts, there it is. There is where they need to enter. They cannot enter after that, so they have to make sure and take both corners. And off of the final turn, Ferguson is on it very quickly. Green flag is out. He does not hesitate. And this does not give him a big jump, though. Goodway is on it with him, stays right behind, everybody braking hard down into the first corner. A little bit of 3 wide in the back, but DJ, this looks pretty good.
Everybody looking through that first sequence pretty cleanly, and there it is. Everybody running 1, 2, 3, 4, pretty much right exactly where they started. The only real mover in there is Gonzalo Cortez, able to jump himself up into 5th. They now make their way through the Atwood curve. This is a really crucial part. This is the launch down that long back straightaway. If there's going to be a draft to happen, this is where it will be.
He's got the draft. Goodway looking on it. He's going to send the Mercedes down to the inside. Is he going to be able to make the corner? Not quite. He goes wide, but it gives him the inside down into Piper. Or Revolver, rather, and he's going to try and hold on the car, sliding as he goes through there. This is for the lead on the first lap. It's 3 left-handers in a row, so Goodway still has the advantage. Now coming into Hobbs, and it looks like he finally claims that position.
Yeah, you see Ferguson, though, continuing to fight around the outside there of Mike Knight. Tried to get the momentum to work, but just not enough camber in that corner. There goes Goodway, blocking him off ever so slightly, and that's going to allow him to be able to get up and go. We go again down another straightaway. There may be a chance for an attack here if Ferguson is very, very late on the brakes, but I think he is way too far back at this point.
Wow, aggressive moves from Lewis Goodway, but he made it stick. It was incredibly tight between them a number of times. They nearly made contact. So it's Goodway leading Ferguson ahead of Morales, with Hervias still back and forth. Interesting thing about Goodway, even though he's got multiple wins, he has yet to take a pole position in this season. But he's not letting that phase him. He might not be getting the bonus points, but he's still able to get up to the front. Look at Ferguson having to play defense here, DJ, as that's Morales now attacking.
Yeah, that Lamborghini really looking out of its element here. The two Mercedes starting to push very late on the brakes there for Morales. Almost lost it. That's going to open him up a little bit to Hervias. Behind him, Toddy is going to have a little bit of a look going down into Piper, kicking up some dirt now as they make their way onto this little straightaway before they get going. The top four stabilizing for the moment.
And our leader in the AM class, for those curious, is currently Kwok Nin down in 14th. In fact, strangely, the field is perfectly split. There are no pros behind Nin, and there is no AMs ahead of Menino, who's last in the pro field right now.
Yeah, very much so. We normally see a lot of these AM drivers start to poke their nose up into that the AM drivers poking their nose up into the pro field a little bit. Not seeing that much today. Hervias setting the fastest lap of the race there from 4th place. That's a bit of a statement, but we continue to ride on board here. This is Menino and Kwok Nin.
Let's go up to Tyler. He's been kind of looking here and there on Morales, but hasn't been able to get a pass done. Let's see if things erupt once again onto the backstretch, down to the hairpin. This looks much stronger for Ferguson, and Goodway knows it immediately. He takes the car all the way down to the right side to play defense. At what point does he try and drift back? Now he brings it back to the racing line, but Ferguson goes in deep. If he can hold the overlap, Revolver might give him something. He's going to have the inside, and he's going to play the same game that Goodway did.
Well, Joe, I was an absolute liar as he tries to push him out to the side of the track. I said there wasn't going to be a lot of passing here, and clearly I was mistaken. Ferguson holding it on to that inside line, slowing down a little bit at the apex. I think that tried to help him a little bit, but it's going to fight back to Lewis Goodway here. Goodway holds the inside as they make their way out of Hobbs and now through Mike Knight.
Whoa, just enough to slam the door shut on Goodway. Ferguson has the spot back. Morales was in a side-by-side battle with Hervias there a little bit as well, but Diego did stay in that 3rd position. Nothing doing down into the 1st corner. In fact, I haven't seen really any passes since the very start of the race into that turn. Everybody's going to stay single file.
No, they're not, but look what all that fighting has allowed for Morales to do. He is right up behind Lewis Goodway now. He's maybe thinking of trying to take a run at the leader once he gets by his teammate. We ride on board with Morales as they head around the Atwood curve.
Up the hill and down towards what has been the most popular place to overtake so far in this race. Lap 4, are we going to get another go at things? Doesn't look like it. Diego just a little too far behind. Look at how, oh my goodness, they are nose to tail pretty much those first 6 cars in the field going through the hairpin. That goes all the way back to Braden Werner, and the gap behind them isn't even much, honestly, behind him. Palacio in 7th has about 0.7 of a second to the 329.
And there, as we focus back on Palacio, there's that battle that you see going on. All of these drivers, you can just throw a sheet over all of them. Okayama proving to be very, very close.
We're going to watch from J.R. Williams, who is in 8th right now, our only onboard for today, as he gives a little bit of a glance down to his mirror in his VR headset. Almost looks like he's got a special filter going on to limit what's visible behind him. I kind of like that. Isn't technology amazing?
It really, really is, and that adds to just how cool it can be. There we see as he goes on board, you see his head moving back and forth, doing a little bit of what, I don't know if you do it, Joe, but I certainly do. You lean with the car a little bit, even there are no G-forces being exerted on you in the simulator.
Oh, I absolutely do it. I can tell you. I even hold my breath in the corners a lot of times, and I don't realize it. But up ahead of him, Morales once again is close to Goodway, but not able to attack. Wonder if they're settling down, or if this is really everybody managing to get far enough away from one another that they can't attack.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what it is.
Oh, sorry, Davies is off. Our first incident of the day, and it's Michael Davies had a little bit of contact, unfortunately, with Espinoza.
All right, so we jump back to the replay here. Ooh, almost a little bit of contact there as they start to make their way back around. Oh, I think that was just a little wee bit of contact there, left front to right rear. But let's check this again.
Yeah, 2-into-1 in revolver doesn't usually work, and that's why. It's a narrow corner and very tight. Unfortunately for Davies, it sends him to the very back of the pack. There you can see the 75 still rolling. 40-minute race, so we are not quite into the pit window. Still got 32 minutes left to go. But he could pit early if he feels like that could give him an advantage to try and retake some of those spots through strategy. Look at that dip to the inside from Morales once again. Doesn't quite pay dividends. Ooh, he gets a bump from behind as Hervias feels like his Lambo is pretty strong through that hairpin.
Yeah, he certainly does, and that's not the only time we've seen him do that tonight. I've seen a little bit of that move out of the 37 multiple times. There's that dip again from Morales. I gotta think that he maybe is starting to contemplate the fact he may not be able to completely get an overtake done on Goodway here, and is just trying to psych him out. Again, though, that's Hervias getting a little feisty in the back.
He's trying to get some overlap through those hairpins. Maybe he can get a better exit off of the final turn. It's a long front stretch here, and it's not looking likely. The car falling away as they start to pick up speed in spite of the slipstream.
Yeah, not really able to do it, and that's what I was talking about, Joe. You can see only down into second gear there through the first corner. It's a relatively fast right-handed sweeper, even though it does come at the end of a long straightaway. Not the best place to overtake.
Ooh, way off into the gravel there coming through Williams. That didn't help him, but it also didn't hurt him too badly. All right, who's got the run through Atwood this time? Is anybody going to have a shot at things? Morales is looking strong. Does he try and battle with his teammate, though, since they both will want to try and help Goodway up towards the championship? And, yeah, Morales doesn't really get feisty down into the hairpin, so I'm wondering if he's thinking long-term for Lewis.
Yeah, he may be, but just look how much time he's really losing off of Ferguson here. The gap's already up to about 1.7 seconds. I've got to think if I'm Morales, I'm getting more and more frustrated. I want a crack here at the leader, and I'm just not getting it.
Yeah, the fastest lap for Ferguson is a full 4/10 quicker than Goodway's quickest lap. It is quite a monster gap in that sense as well. This trio running second, third, and fourth, watching the leader pull away, aren't able to fight amongst each other. Ooh, behind them, way off for Cortez. The fifth place car might be under threat. Werner has got a shot. It looks like he's going to try and send it in the inside down into turn one. You talked about the back and forth between these first two corners. I don't think he's going to get it.
I don't think he is either. He's going to try to do what he can, though. They're still side by side.
Wow, going to prove me wrong. Through the Moss S. Does he defend, or is he going to leave the door open? Door is open, but Cortez can't step through. Give fifth spot to the 329.
That's a really, really gutsy there from Braden Warner, just not taking no for an answer. He is currently your highest placed Ferrari right now. There he is trying to go again, maybe. What's he gonna do?
Look around the outside, and in front of them, a little bit of side-by-side action between Morales and Hervias as Diego was making a move on Goodway. Tyler stuck his nose in, tried to take advantage, didn't quite work out. And look at him once again. Go defensive. Whoa, very late move down to the inside. He's going to tip him. He's around. Oh, and multiple cars piling in, unfortunately. Wow, that really trickled down in the absolute worst way through the hairpins.
Yeah, it looks like that there were multiple cars, Warner, a couple others, but let's keep an eye on this. So there you see the run. Now, it's that move we've been seeing out of him this entire race. That Lamborghini then dives to the inside. Neither of them give any space. You see the tip. Oh, that's Warner that gets collected there, and then the rest of the field really left with nowhere to go.
Cortez was the only other one to make contact, but Jared Williams lost a lot of time, having to come to a complete halt. This is Diego down to 10th. Well, we've had a couple pro cars, naturally, that have fallen behind some of our AM drivers, which means Kwok Nin, our lead AM driver, is up to 12th at this stage, gaining a few spots. We're going to take a look at 5th place, though. This is now between Jean-Marc Tremblay and Jorge Flores, two drivers that have been promoted by that big accident.
Indeed, they're going to be very happy about it as they're getting a little bit feisty there, but there you see a little bit of a pull away there for that McLaren as they start to get it on. Those flames that we always talk about, Joe, they are just spectacular looking out the back.
I love watching them. Never get sick of this McLaren on the track, braking hard down into Redmond and Hobbs once again. And there's quite a train building up behind him, though. It's not just Flores, it's Espinoza, Menino's in there, Cortez now as well. Oh, and Menino is going to be the first to blink. We have a taker on pit lane.
All right, interesting. There you go. About 13 minutes into this race, Menino decides to take it down. It's a little bit early, but it certainly is within the pit window.
Yeah, should absolutely be. 26 minutes left on the clock, so actually relatively close to the halfway mark. Gonna look at 5th place now. Once again, Jean-Marc Tremblay and Jorge Flores. Espinoza also trailing. They've got a little bit of a gap now that Menino pitted behind them, which frees up Cortez, who was the one trying to get a position away from David. Go ahead.
I was going to say it does indeed, but he's now got to try to pull up back to the rear of that train of SRT drivers, all while Diego Morales is right behind him still, definitely putting some pressure on it. I've got to imagine that the driver underneath the hood of that number 20 machine is pretty angry and maybe driving with a little bit of a red mist. We drive on board with him now.
Let's watch and see how he's handling things. Certainly nice and tight to the back of Cortez. And Cortez is going to take a shallow line into the second of the two hairpins. Espinoza not having any of that chops him off. Everybody could get a shot at trying to run well off the final corner. Who's got the good traction? None of them going wide like we saw Cortez do a few laps ago. So unfortunately, it doesn't appear that anybody will have enough advantage to attack into the first turn.
None at all, although it did look a little bit like we've got Warner coming into the pits, so we have a second taker on that pit cycle, Joe. Braden Warner.
Okay, remember he is now somewhat out of position. You can see the damage on the car, too. Kind of caught up as an innocent victim in that craziness. So the 329, they don't have a spare car, mind you, is going to have to take whatever repairs he can get and then get back out. This is our leader, though. Daniel Ferguson has had the top spot since the drop of the green, other than a couple brief laps where Lewis Goodway was able to sneak ahead of him. Otherwise, he has put some big distance between himself and everyone else. That was Goodway that you saw in the background just pop into the screen before the cameras turned and followed Ferguson around the next few corners.
And we jump on board with Goodway here. And remember, Goodway not really caught out in that incident that sent his teammate all the way back down the field. Ferguson has just been able to do this on raw pace alone. He's very, very impressive. You see that good line, though, for Goodway out of the corner. He's got to start pushing here at 3.7 seconds. That gap is going to just get bigger if he doesn't stay on it.
I think this might actually work out well for Warner because he's only got one car, one slower car ahead of him in the form of Aubrey. Diego Morales now pitting. So looks like the 20 is going to take his service. Let's see where he comes out in respect to Werner, since he was also involved in that incident. 74 of Goodway under threat. This is Hervias right on top of him, looking once again, weaving down to the inside. Does he drift back outside? Only just now leaves his space to Tyler. Tyler tries to get the overlap, and it's not quite going to be there.
No, it's not, and doesn't look like he's able to exactly get an overlap of a corner there out of Revolver and into Piper there. So he's not going to be able to make the move here. Now remember, this was where he made that very late move here. Not going to happen. He just keeps going for that crossover line there, Joe, trying to go from the outside in.
Oof, and getting very close to that rear bumper each time. We saw him making little touches here and there, not afraid to run tight to the car ahead. Oh, we got a pass between Cortez and Espinoza, I think, or was that Espinoza defending?
I believe that was Espinosa defending from that, but Cortez very, very close here.
Yeah, but he didn't get a good run. He's already fallen behind. You can see he'll stay back. Morales managed to get back out of the pits ahead of both Menino and Werner, by the way. So now Diego is our highest pitter amongst that group. Still waiting for the halfway mark to hit at 21 minutes left. Jean-Marc Tremblay battling with Jorge Flores. This is for the 5th position. Flores behind, who we hop on board with now. Trying to see if he can attack that McLaren, but it doesn't look like the Lamborghini's got the legs down the backstretch. He's going to stay in line behind them. A little bit of defense going on between Espinoza and Cortez.
Yeah, we check back in on that Ferrari duel, but that defense proving very worthwhile as they make their way through Piper now. Definitely looks like the Cortez is losing a little bit of ground here, but able to really draw that up under braking going down into Redmond.
Yeah, this slow sequence makes the cars so tight together. It must feel tantalizingly close to be able to do something. But rare that we've seen passes actually stick through there. It's, in fact, caused one of our biggest issues in the race so far. Oh, my goodness. Hervias and Goodway are still right on top of one another. That's the battle for second. There you see it on screen. Tyler almost had a shot into the first corner, elected not to take it. Is he setting himself up for the backstretch?
Oh, he may be trying to set him up there for Atwood. Goes around the long way. That may hurt him a little bit, but if he can keep the momentum up, he will have a better run down the straight, potentially, if he pinched off Goodway just right. Tucks up behind in the draft. Here it is, Mercedes versus Lamborghini. They're very close. Here comes Hervias out to the outside. Goodway again protects the inside. Maybe looking at that crossover move once more, but Goodway, wise to it, breaks a little bit at the apex and slows him down just enough to be able to hold him off once again.
Tyler's going to have to work hard for this one. Didn't work that time, but he's been getting closer and closer. Goodway fighting as hard as possible, knowing that this has championship implications. Whoever finishes ahead of them, barring the bonus points, is obviously going to score better. And they are the ones tied for the lead. However, it is Ferguson in front of them, who is a single point behind coming into this race, but not only taking the pole in that bonus point already, but looking like he's going to score better than both of them.
Yeah, and that's going to be absolutely crucial, and rest assured that that is on everybody's mind when it comes to the championship, most particularly Hervias here, who is just wanting to claw his way forward. Remember, he's third back in points. Good run there a little bit. He's got some good momentum as they work their way now through the S's and towards Atwood. Is he going to try that same outside look? It looks like he is, but I think he's got a better run here unless Goodway stops him up on the exit. I think there may have been a little bit of a checkup, but there's some mega speed from Hervias nonetheless.
Yeah, he was looking for that over-under, and hugging that inside. Goodway is not going to let him have the right side of the track this time, though it's much deeper. A little bit of ghost contact between them as a bump sends Hervias outside. Does he keep his nose in? Down through Revolver. He tries for it. Now down into Piper. He gets a second shot at things. One more try. It's not done, and he doesn't get the exit. Look at him immediately cover him off. Goodway, knowing exactly what Tyler is thinking, will not let him have that inside line.
And Cortez, unfortunately, has just spun.
Ooh, this was... let's take a look at this. This is a unforced error, unfortunately, for the 16. Easy to do at this turn. I've done this so many times. Watch the right-hand side of the car. Watch the grass. There it is.
Yep, just gets his tire out onto it and can't reel it back in, unfortunately. That's going to put him down in 9th place.
Going up to Goodway once again. And Tyler's farther back off of him now. Got another driver in the mid-pack pitting. Don't need to go to it. It's David Morse in the 27, who is now in.
And it looks like here that Goodway's been able to get a little bit more of a gap than we've seen him have. Gap is up to about 0.6 of a second. And in terms of this just continued assault by Tyler Hervias, however aggressive it is, ooh, we got to jump back here because we've got a little bit of a battle.
Yeah, I think Flores finally got past Tremblay, and he's going to take 5th place. This happened out of Atwood. This is the pass that Tyler was hoping he could do, but just couldn't seem to pull off. But it was facilitated by Tremblay going in a little bit deep.
That is Tremblay, of course, in front in that McLaren. Here we ride on board with Flores. There you said it, Joe. Goes deep. Flores sees the opportunity, gets that apex perfectly, runs it to the inside, and now he's got the better line through the next corner. A textbook move to take advantage of a mistake.
Well, the unfortunate news for those who have pitted early is that they are already getting into the slower traffic that is yet to pit. I thought they'd have more time than that and maybe get away with it, but Morales has been in the thick of it and is losing time hand over fist, unfortunately. There you can see just gone by Neil Alexander. That's Menino, another of our pitters. Just heard someone come in. I think that's Michael Davies. Yeah, Davies is in.
He is indeed. Woo, that was a big slip there for one of the Mercedes coming around, but here is Davies coming to rest in his pit stall. The 75 looks good. No tires, obviously. Waiting for service in the car. We've seen about 7.9 seconds. That's a quick one for Davies.
Definitely. Whoa, and side by side finally with Goodway and Hervias. Hervias still not willing to give this one up. He's going to keep that foot in the door. Can he manage to get the better exit this time off of Piper? It's just not there. The 37 is just racing his heart out in an attempt to get by his title rival, but it is not working.
It really and truly isn't. And I've got to say here for Hervias, it's a bit of a problem. He's running the same move lap after lap. He's going to the outside, trying to cut inside, carry that momentum in, do that high to low line. And for Goodway, he knows what's coming, so he's able to defend it off quite well. There you see him diving down to the inside line there, just trying to break a little bit of the draft to make sure he is defended going into turn 1.
Wow, I haven't seen anybody really go that defensive on the front stretch, though. And this may have helped the 37. Hervias making sure to keep the pressure on. You were saying before, he keeps trying the same move. Let's see if this is going to be any different through Atwood, where he often starts to set it up. He's certainly not getting right underneath him like he did before. Is he maybe looking for a better slingshot?
Might be. It looked like for a second he may have had a good one, but he is a little bit too far back here. Still darts to the outside. Very, very late on the brakes. He's going to be able to get that crossover, but again, Goodway sees what's coming. He holds the Mercedes up at the apex ever so slightly. That blunts off Hervias' momentum. He's not able to get on the throttle as early as he wants to, and it prevents him from launching a larger attack.
This has got to be a bit frustrating for Tyler, because he knows he's quicker. At least he appears to be quicker from what we can see, versus Lewis Goodway. Hopping on board with him, watching as both of them elect to continue on, still not pitting in quite yet. Got maybe another minute or two before drivers will probably be flooding into the lane, because we've only had 5 of them finish a scheduled stop.
Yeah, and especially for a lot of these guys locked in a tight battle, you really don't want to be the first one to blink in case that undercut may prove to be the wrong strategy. Gervais, you can see him just sawing at the wheel there, trying to find anything by. Goodway takes a little bit more curb there as they made their way through Williams. Thought for a second that could have been an opportunity for Gervais, but he's not going to go for it. Here they come diving down into Atwood. Gervais takes a more narrow line this time, a little bit of opposite lock at the apex, and back onto the loud pedal trying to pick up a draft.
He's always so strong on the binders, and once that car starts to do this, I don't know why he doesn't try and look to the inside. I guess he's a little too far back this time, but he could try and sell him a dummy. Oh man, at some point he's going to turn him around. That looked a little bit more forceful that time.
Yeah, I think Gervais is getting just a little bit frustrated. Both of these drivers just wanting to get away from each other and run a lap or two in peace.
I think Matthew Aubrey just came into pit lane. Yeah, the 95 farther back down. So he's the next one to take service. Ferguson's not coming in. Goodway and Gervais continue on by. Yeah, none of our leaders feel like it is worth trying to pit. Nope, here we go. Espinosa and the 87.
And there he comes diving on down onto the binders, get down to that pit speed limit. These drivers, of course, do have a pit speed limiter built into the car, which will help them a little bit, but still very easy to go over. Espinosa now pulls into his pit box and waits for that fuel.
So right now, Morales is coming around the final corner. He might actually get out ahead of Andre. Andre's moving. And where is Morales? He's just behind him. It is very close, but Espinosa will take over that spot of the highest driver to have pitted.
So there you go, the overcut.
Oh, sorry, we got to go to Goodway once again. Oh, and they banged doors this time through the hairpin, but Tyler still wasn't able to get by him. He looked a lot more forceful once again. Just trying to pinch him down, maybe. I wonder if he is trying a few different things to see if there's anything he can do to take away that advantage that the 74 is finding.
I think that's what he's just, at this point, it's just trying to do something, anything. If I'm Gervais, I may be thinking, you know what, I've got to come in at this point. That may be the only option. We're getting close to 10 minutes to go. I've got to imagine that pit window is going to close.
Oh, that was very wide. Goodway into the dirt. I don't think Tyler was close enough to try and make a pass down here. If he was any closer, that would have been a much easier attempt. Once again, his opportunities get scuppered here and there, whether it's his fault or others. Just can't seem to get anything to stick. Now, they're also coming up on Matthew Aubrey. Lap traffic, is that what the doctor ordered for Tyler Gervais?
Well, it might be, but I think they're going to catch him on the straightaway, and that's going to prove a boon to Lewis Goodway, potentially. Aubrey gets out of the way and indeed doesn't lift off the throttle all too much, though. As they start to come down into the braking zone, this could get a little bit hairy. There he does. They're good to go. Now, Gervais a little bit back, tries that over-under again. Goodway, a slight bit of lift off on the apex of the corner. Doesn't look like Gervais is going to be quite close enough, but we've seen some aggressive moves from him coming down into Redmond before.
He's sticking with it. Ferguson's going to stay out. He's already to that pit entry ahead of these guys. That tells you the distance that he's put. The gap is 12 seconds between himself and P2. Well, that was interesting. Now, why did Goodway cover off the inside of Mike Knight when he wasn't pitting?
I think that may have been a little bit of a head game from the driver of the 74. It almost looked like you see on an oval race, Joe, where somebody tries to dive to the inside to make it look like they're going to pit, see if you could get Gervais to bite on it.
Looks like Jean-Marc Tremblay and J.R. Williams are going to be pitting or watching from on board JR. Looks like he's messing with something off to the side. Couldn't quite see what. Maybe resetting a button box. And he's on his way, but he'll be behind Jean-Marc Tremblay, who's actually coming out side by side with Espinosa and putting it perfectly between Espinosa and Morales.
Oh, this is gonna get spicy. There you go, 1, 2, 3 as they come on out. This is a very tight duel as they come into the pits. Oh, that was a little bit of a run wide from Tremblay.
Looks like Morales wasn't able to take advantage, so he'll have to sit behind. But after the pit stops, these three have nothing separating them. And we are down to 7 minutes left as well. Ooh, this is a good run from Diego. Jean-Marc trying to defend. He's not covering him off. Now he starts to drift a little bit just to dissuade that number 20.
And leaders are all coming into the pits, Joe. Ferguson, Goodway, Hervias, and Palacio. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And yet no strategy games between Goodway and Hervias. They pit at the same time. That kind of surprises me. I think we're at the end of that pit window, though. Yeah, this is pretty much the remainder of the leaders. No hassles for Ferguson. He is once again out and running. So he's going to break that tie between the top three who each... Oh, and Hervias with a slightly short stop manages to jump Goodway. That's what he's been looking for.
And here is the only caveat to that, Joe. That is the shortest stop I have seen from anybody here today. It's about 0.4 of a second faster than Jean-Marc Tremblay, who had the previous record at 7 seconds. Hervias able to do it in 6.6, so he may have to do a slight bit of fuel saving if that is what this means. He may have underfueled the car.
Oof. Well, he was riding behind Lewis for quite a few laps, so that may have helped him save some of it, but he was attacking for many of those corners, so I wouldn't think that he had saved quite that much fuel. We'll see soon enough. He did have slightly better pace than Lewis from what it seemed as he continued to make attempts at passing, but just couldn't find a way by. So it may be that he could get himself enough of a buffer and then try to save that fuel in the last few seconds of the race. Ferguson still at 12 seconds ahead of both of them, has control of this thing. And what I was going to mention before is that Goodway, Hervias, and Ferguson all have 2 wins so far. So this is going to break up that tie, as Goodway is going to be the first to hit 3 this season.
Is indeed, and that'll be a good little thing for him to hold his hat on. Look at this, though, Joe. Hervias really starting to pull away. He's already got a gap of about 0.7 of a second over Lewis Goodway. So, gotta think that Lamborghini was held up a little bit in those early stages.
I think Morales just hit the incident limit. I'm checking to see, and I'm not seeing anything egregious, but I think this is a drive-through because he's already had his pit stop. Yeah, drive-through penalty for Diego Morales. That will put him back out in 12th position, just ahead of Michael Davies.
Oh, the day just going from bad to worse for the driver, the number 20, getting caught out in that incident early on, and then just insult to injury with that drive-through penalty. You know, Joe, we've been talking about that lower incident limit this entire season, and it's very rarely caught all that many people out, but it strikes here at long last.
Back in 6th place, that exiting battle after the pit sequence still has Tremblay at the front of it. Espinosa pulling away, though, as he came out just in front of Jean-Marc, but seems to have the legs over him. Jorge Flores is in 7th, J.R. Williams in there in P8, and then Menino with a decent run back up to the front after being sent to the back.
Yeah, it's a very good run from him. He's actually 2 places up on his starting position, but the hard charger out of all of this is that guy who has started to separate. Espinosa up 7 from his starting position of 12th to 5th place.
So we check in on the 87, riding on board. And we've only got, I think, 2 laps to go here. How far up is Ferguson? Is he going to be able to get in with 2 to go? Yeah, I think it'll be 2 to go.
Yeah, it's about right. He's just coming up to some more lapped cars again. I believe that is Matthew Aubrey ahead of him. Aubrey, as we saw before, will do a lovely job and get out of the way for him. So just a matter of time.
Ooh, this isn't the best place to try and go slowly, though. Now he's going to let him through completely. Good job on Ferguson to not lose the car through the outside of Revolver. And yeah, he puts some distance now between himself and the lapped car. Let's see, we're running about 128.5 laps. So we definitely have 2 to go at the line for Daniel Ferguson. This is J.R. Williams once again as we ride on board. DJ, why don't you talk us through a lap around Okayama?
Alrighty, Joe. Well, here you can see it's getting ready to start and spool up on that lap as we come through Mike Knight corner and the last corner. Those are pretty much brush breaking corners. But now we get onto the main straight. You want to get a good exit off of the left there, not go too wide. It is a straight blast down the straightaway. You got to start eyeing your markers over to the left and brake, but not too hard there. It's only a second gear corner. We're late on the apex. Get back onto the throttle, swing it back to the right-hand side of the road for Williams. Again, brush braking. Carry as much momentum through the corner as you can. Watch out for that gravel trap on the right side. It's flat out through the Moss S here, but you've got to be careful because too much sudden movement will send the car spinning. Now, you again want to take a late apex here and get late onto the throttle coming through Atwood, but keeping up the speed at quarter exit is everything because now you're onto the long back straightaway. This is really the first time you've got a moment to take a breath before you sight to the left, find your braking mark, get down hard, pull all the way into first gear and get into that right-hander. That's a normal way to take an apex and you don't have to worry about coming too late, but here you do as you come in through Revolver and again through Piper. You have to watch out for the curbs on all around on that as they can unsettle the car. You're now onto the backstretch. Get ready for the hairpin of Redmond. Bring it in. Try to take a little bit of an early apex there to get out wide and then swing it again here through Hobbs. Carry as much speed as you can. You're not going to be doing a whole lot of braking through these next 2 corners. It's Mike Knight. You just lift off the throttle ever so slightly and then do it again coming through the last corner. Bleed off a little bit of speed and hard back onto the throttle. And that is a lap around Okayama.
Ahead of all of that, Ferguson just took the white flag, the 6-7-6, preparing to take his 3rd win of the season and head into the final 2 rounds with the advantage in points. The interesting thing as well is that of those 2 rounds, only round 9 can be dropped in those drop points. Once they get to round 10, it must count. So that will be the important one. Of our top 3, only one of them has a DNF, and guess who it is? Daniel Ferguson. So this points lead is all the more important for this 6-7-6 car. 3 seconds ticking down to 0, and the checkered flag getting ready to be waved as Ferguson here in round 8 just has 2 more corners to go. Despite being hassled by Goodway in the first couple laps, he shook it off with ease, and Daniel Ferguson will be your winner here in Japan for the Precision Racing League GT3 Sprint Series.
An absolutely mega run from Daniel Ferguson, and behind him, Tyler Hervias. Worries about him running out of fuel, they were completely unfounded. He crosses the line after a determined and aggressive drive to get 2nd place from Lewis Goodway, who comes home 3rd.
Battle between Menino and Flores. Looks like Menino is going to be the one to come out ahead on that one by about half a second. Behind them, Cortez will be able to beat out Werner, who was not able to recover after he got involved in that incident early in the race. Incredibly, we had pretty much everybody finish on the lead lap except for Matthew Aubrey. So only 1 car put a lap down, which means as the last of them trickle across the line, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. welcome back to Okayama International Circuit Round 8 for the PRL GT3 Sprint Series. Wound up going to Ferguson this time. There was a battle for the lead in the early laps between himself and Goodway, but he fended him off. Tyler Hervias was the next one to fight with Goodway, but it was Tyler who was attacking. He eventually took second, jumping him in the pit stops. Goodway falling to third in the end means that he is going to be the worst place of those three coming into the final two rounds. Julio Palacio finished fourth with Andre Espinoza up 7 positions from 12th to 5th. Jean-Marc Tremblay was a P6 today with J.R. Williams in 7th and David Menino in 8th. It was Jorge Flores finishing 9th and Gonzalo Cortez unfortunately went backwards, taking a 10th.
In 11th place, it was Braden Warner who suffered from that early spin, but was able to get there, get back to 11th, courtesy of an early pit stop. Diego Morales was in 12th, followed by Michael Davies and Kwok Nin. David Morse was 15th, followed by Matt Hilton and Spencer Semkowicz, with Brian Hotham in 18th. And rounding out your top 20, it was Neil Alexander and Jordan Walker.
And we mentioned Aubrey, our only driver a lap down, but that takes us to our winner here today, Daniel Ferguson. Daniel, congratulations. I gotta say, it looked like you didn't have many to fight with you later in the race, but the first few laps, you and Goodway just had an incredible back and forth. Might need to see if we can get Daniel hooked up here on the mic. There we go. Now we got you, Daniel.
Yeah, I've got to give Lewis a lot of credit for going side by side for so many corners and keeping it clean. I knew I had to get by him, or else I think it's Diego at that time would have probably had a shot at me, and Lewis would have got away.
Now, I find it interesting that you've managed 3 wins already this season and have yet to take a pole position. Well, actually, no, I take that back. This was your first pole position of the season, it looks like. What kept you from getting that first pole all the way until round 8?
I actually believe I've got the most pole positions, I think.
Oh, my stats are lying to me in that case. I apologize. Well, regardless, you now head in the best position in the final 2 rounds compared to the other two, having broken that tie between Hervias and Goodway, and you being 1 point behind. Do you think that's helpful coming in with that advantage, even though it's only going to be a small points advantage, or do you not even consider those sort of things, especially knowing that anything can happen in the final 2 rounds?
I've still got to keep pushing because the last 2 rounds are Monza, which, as we know, is very much and anything can happen, especially at turn 1, lap 1. So just got to keep the head down, keep pushing. I'm sure Lewis and Tyler will give it their all for the last 2 rounds as well.
Well, and that also brings up the talk of the different makes of cars, because they're both running in Mercs and you're running in the Lambo. Do you think you've got an advantage with these last 2 tracks coming up between Coda and Monza? I know they're quite different.
I think the tire wear on the Lambo is better, so I think we do have a little bit of an advantage. But one lap pace, the Mercedes is very strong, and Lewis can race about anything quickly, so we'll see how it goes.
We will indeed. Well, congratulations on the win, and feel free to thank whoever helped make this win possible.
I'd like to thank the team, Pure Sims, and everyone involved there, including our sponsors, Craig Setup Shop, OBP, and SimLab. Thanks, guys.
That's Daniel Ferguson, Victor, here today. With up next, DJ is caught up with Tyler Hervias, who certainly gave us a lot of fun to watch.
Tyler, we were just saying off air that's got to be one of the most exciting battles we have seen in this series this entire season. Talk us through that multiple lap fight with Lewis Goodway.
Yeah, it was a good battle. I think from the beginning, I knew I messed up qualifying, so I knew I had better pace than both of the SimMSA cars ahead. But passing here, as you probably saw, was quite a bit difficult. I tried pretty much everything I could do, but nothing worked. So I saw in the pits, the race was going to go a lap shorter. So took a bit less fuel, and I think Lewis overfueled by a lap. So that definitely helped a bit, jumping him in the pits. Yeah, but at the beginning of the race, trying to get past Diego. Bit optimistic on my side, but saw the gap opening, so I had to go for it because Daniel was just going to drive away at that point, so I had to do something there.
Yeah, I mean, really fighting for that gap all the way through. It looked like obviously early on you had a little bit of a coming together. Did you have any damage that picked up, or were you able to just drive that car like it was perfectly fine?
I didn't notice too much damage. The pace felt pretty much the same after that. But yeah, I was, like I said, I was just trying. I saw Fergie at the front was just pulling a gap, and I wanted to be up there, not get held up too much. But I think I braked a little bit too late and just made contact with Diego, so apologies for that. But other than that, it was a pretty good fight with Lewis.
Well, we love to see it. Now, we heard about some of the trepidation coming up. Obviously, Monza is on the schedule coming up, which is always something that throws a little bit of fun. But we head to Coda. After that, are there any places you're looking forward to? Any places that you're terrified of?
Not really looking forward to any of them, to be honest, but we'll see how it goes. Monza's going to be just a draft fest and whoever can save the most fuel. So that'll be pretty interesting. See who wins that. But Coda, don't know how that's going to go. Not a big fan of the track, but anything can happen. So see what happens.
Well, we'll be watching for it for sure. Anybody you'd like to thank today for this epic second place?
Yeah, just shout out to everyone at Pure Sims and you guys for the broadcast. And once again, sorry to Diego for the contact.
Well, thank you very much. That was Tyler Hervias, your second place finisher. Now Joe Peak has indeed caught up with your third place finisher, Lewis Goodway.
Lewis, I got you and Daniel a bit mixed up. It was you that didn't have any poles as he's grabbed 4. But today you did qualify in the front row and you gave a good go at trying to steal that win from him. Didn't quite hold on. Did you know that if he managed to get ahead of you, he'd be able to pull away like that? Not sure that we have Lewis hooked up either with his mic. Looks like we won't be able to talk to him as unfortunately we've lost contact there. So let's, of course, wrap it up with a big thank you to our sponsors, starting with Simulation Motorsports Affinity. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net. And, of course, NinjaTrader. Visit NinjaTrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. And, of course, Butt Kicker. Feel what you've been missing at thebuttkicker.com. Big thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, DJ, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. There's also our social media. We've got all those outlets listed at the bottom of the screen. And if you'd like to support us, check out our merchandise store, which is simply simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment. The next race that we'll have on will be Circuit of the Americas for the finale, May 31st at 9 p.m. Eastern, as the drivers head off to Monza next week. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. The Porsche Owners Club goes to Virginia International Raceway in just a few moments' time, so stay tuned for that. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.